Welcome back to this installment of Voices in Cloth. I am joined by quilting textile art legend of South Africa. She has been mentioned by almost everybody I've interviewed as being an inspiration to them, the fabulous Tilly de Harde. Tilly, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks so much for this interview.
Thank you for taking part. It was just such a wonderful thing. And you're one of the first people to contribute as well. So thank you. It was brilliant.
It's a pleasure.
Tilly, if there are any people living under a rock who don't know who you are, would you like to give yourself a little bit of an intro about who you are and where you're based, and a little bit about your quilting journey?
Sure. As everybody knows, I'm Tilly de Harde. I live in South Africa, and narrow down a bit, I am from Gauteng, Johannesburg, and I live in the leafy suburbs of Johannesburg, and it's called Victory Park. I've lived here for, I think, about 24 years. And yes, I have done quilting since, I think, 1996. I have entered quite a number of quilt competitions and won quite a number of first places, best on show. You know, there's on my website, there's a whole sort of CV with all the prizes that I have won and all the quilts and the shows where I took part in. So yes, I started off as doing a little bit of patchwork, and then moving from that slowly but surely moving into the art quilt. But before that, I did 2 hand embroidered and hand quilted queen size extra length quilts. So, and those were 2 really big challenges in my life, but I really loved every minute of it. It got a bit tedious towards the end, but both those went on to win really nice prizes in the South African quilt competitions. Unfortunately, it's not something that one would want to send overseas to compete, because, you know, if something had to happen to it, I would never have that. I would never be able to retrieve that. But yes, and then after that, I went on to still create patchwork, but play more with color. And slowly but surely I developed, I always called it my primary school days, my high school days, and university days. And nowadays I only create art quilts and artwork. So textile and fiber artist, that's me nowadays. And it's been a journey of fun.
Well, it's also a journey of discovery, because I think it's quite true that you can see in the work that's on your website, you have got distinct stages in your career, and it's extraordinary. What's been your favorite part about it?
My favorite part was probably growing from doing patchwork and entering the art quilt and developing. A lot of it I developed myself. I'm not, you know, because I'm a teacher, I'm not really a person who goes to other classes, to other people's classes. I figure out things, I rewrite the book every time, but most of my work I figure out by myself, and then I sit and play. And I think that is the best part of it, just to be able to have the ability and, of course, the time to sit and play. You know, you sit behind your sewing machine, this is what you do, and now you just relax completely and play and create every day. You know, you create artworks, you create things that fulfill soul, your creative spirit. It's just, that to me is the best part of being an art quilter nowadays, an artist, I should really say, fiber artist, because that's what I do. I work with fiber.
And having done one of your classes before, you'd bring that joy and playful spirit into your classes as well. It's really special to be a part of.
Yes, you know, I always try to encourage my students to grow, and I give them what they should be able to do in the class, so they get the correct technique. And then from there, I want them to go home and play and create their own works. And a lot of them, well, all of my students always say, they send me photographs, and I have a brag book on my phone and on my laptop.
Oh, wonderful.
Where I have all their photographs in, yes. And one day I will share the whole collection, but it really is so satisfying. You know, it's not just in-person classes like at festivals or when I teach in my studio. It's also online classes. It's just wonderful. You teach people from all over the world, and they send you photographs, and it's like, this is my work, this is my fulfillment as well. So yes, fun all the way.
But I think as well, it's got a different aspect as well, because not only have you taught the technique, you've also then taught that inspiration as well, which is something
Yes,
you can't put a price on.
yes, yes. When people ask me why do I do the work that I do, most of the time I say to them it is to inspire other people to also create. And it's also when you go to quilt exhibitions and quilt shows and that, those people are so brave putting themselves out there. And I think the viewer stands in front of that quilt, admires it, and gets inspiration from it. And that's also one of the reasons why I enter quilt competitions. It's just so lovely, you know. It's been inspiring people all the way. I love it.
Is there any specific quilt or any competition that stands out to you have been the best win or the best quilt or anything like that? Because you've done so many different things and they're so varied. Is there anything that's
Yes,
like your favorite, or is it like saying who's your favorite child and you can't answer that?
probably is a bit like that. You know, when you create something at the time of creating, let's say, Scram, which is the one that won best on show in 2019 at Heronbridge here in Johannesburg. When I created that, I was in a different space to when I created, let's say, the hand embroidered and hand quilted quilt that won in the year 2000. It is just, and 2008. It's just completely different places. So yes, every quilt that I make happens at a different time of my life. There's different inspiration for it. And every one of them is just one of my favorites. I can't really say there's one that stands out as my absolute favorite. I can't say that. That would be unfair.
I get that. Is there any chance of ever seeing an anthology of all of your work where you could get all of them out and be able to show everything that you've got from the beginning to where you are now?
I think that will be a fantastic thing to do. You know, maybe like have a solo show somewhere and show from beginning. You know, I mean, some of the beginner quilts are really, I mean, it's a beginner quilt, you know. And when
Exactly.
I started, I really didn't know anything about quilting. I started with baby steps. Well, I thought they were baby steps, but afterwards I thought, how on earth could I have started with a color wash? I didn't know a thing about it. But even then, you know, you have to have a little bit of a sense of the use of color so that you can blend your colors. And I think even then that appealed to me. Not so much the patchwork side of it, but putting fabrics next to each other. It's almost like painting with fabric. So even in those days, all those years and years ago, 1996, I think I started. It was a long time ago. And I still have those quilts. Uh, yeah, it's, you know, I think it will be a nice thing to have a solo show with, you know, from start to finish. Well, not that it's ever finished, but from start to what I do nowadays. I think it will be very interesting. And I'd be keen to do that. Yes,
I think
I'd
as
be
well, it
keen
would
to.
be amazing if there was a way of chronicalizing it in a book of some kind, because I think that would be something really special to mark the history of everything that you've done up to a point. You can do volumes
Yes,
1, 2, and 3. You could do primary school, high school, and university.
yes. And it can carry on so that it's to be continued. Yes,
Honors,
yes.
masters, the PhD.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yes, it's definitely something to consider, and I will definitely think about it when I'm not as busy with creating. You know, I'm constantly busy creating.
Well,
So,
that's what was going to be my next point is there ever going to be a point where you won't be? Because you just seem so inspired by your work. And when you see the new pieces that are coming, it's wonderful. Your newsletter every month, it's really special to see what you're up to and what you're doing. You just kind
well,
of get the
thank you.
feeling you never stop. You never have time to make that time to do something more.
I don't have time. Well, you know, there's always, if you want to make time, I'm sure you will find time. But I'm so busy with having fun at the moment that I can't think of going back in history and you know, putting all my works. I don't know. It will come. It will come one day. One
If it's
day.
meant to, if it's meant to, and
If,
if it's not, you've moved on.
absolutely. Yes.
On a lot of the interviews, so many people have said that you are such an inspiration to them in the quilting world, which I know you know about, and I know it's a very special place in your heart. Do you have anybody who inspires you in the quilting world?
I do. Yes. I love Catherine Homer Fox. I love her work. I love her as a person. She's just so bubbly. Work. I am very much inspired by her work. And then, you know, there's some overseas people. I love Sue Devaney from Australia. Love her work. Very inspiring. And then there's also Beth Ann, who is a brilliant quilter. She does quilting mostly on the long arm, but she also does domestic quilting. So if you want to look for quilt inspiration, she's the one that I would look at. And then, of course, Carly Porter, who is the person who does graffiti quilting. And for people who don't know what graffiti quilting is, it's crazy. I just love doing graffiti quilting. So she is definitely an inspiration in my life. I look at her work all the time. I follow her on Instagram, on everywhere, wherever she's visible. And yes, she's a huge inspiration. But I say in South Africa, definitely people like Catherine Harmer Fox. There's Mari Klaaser in the Cape, Elaine Barnard. There's so many art quilters. You can hear it's all mostly art quilters because that's what I do. And of course, Tilly and Jeffrey with all her beautiful quilting. Yes, I'm inspired. What can I say? I'm inspired.
It's hard not to be with such amazing names like that. It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to about the Quilt Festival in a few months?
Teaching. I love teaching. So I'm looking forward to meeting all my new students. I love doing that. And then, of course, seeing all the beautiful quilts, that is the one time every second year when we do have the ability to exhibit our work and be inspired by other people's work. And then, I should have said this first, but going to a place where you can meet your friends that you see every second year, you meet like-minded people and you can visit them again. And as I said, sometimes you only see these people once every second year, and it's so nice to do the catch-up visits. That's just lovely. So yes, that's what I'm looking forward to. And of course, also to see the Natal people. I went to my first festival that I ever attended. It was in Bloemfontein, but the next one where I stayed over was in Natal. So this one will be fantastic, just to see, go back in time and just enjoy it again.
And also see how things have changed as they've gone, because it seems like this festival is going to be the first where technology is at the core of everything. It's going to be very exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting. Everything about it is very exciting. So yes, I can't wait for it.
Brilliant.
Can I also just say, it's also just good to know that I can now look forward to it in a relaxed manner because my competition quilts have been entered. So,
And you finished them, I'm guessing.
Pardon?
You've obviously finished them as well.
I still have to sew the labels on, but for the rest I finished, yes.
I'll tell you a scary story. It is the 3rd of May today. We are 2 months away from festival. We are less than a month away from having to post them. I have 3. I've not cut a single stitch of fabric for any of them yet. I haven't started a thing.
Oh my goodness.
And I have 209 interviews to do for this series before the 1st of June as well. So I'm a little nervous.
John, I have a feeling you're not going to be sleeping for the next 2 months. You're not going to be sleeping.
No, definitely not.
No.
But it's all part of the fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My truly South African trait is procrastinating to the very end.
Yes. Yes. And putting ourselves under that pressure. And then at the last minute, you're like, oh, why did I do this to myself? And next year you do the same thing.
And I'll never do it ever again. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Tilly, what drew you to the project that we're doing?
The fact that you said you want to promote South African quilters. I thought that was a really good cause. And of course, the money that if you sell the quilts, which I hope you do, the money that you get will be plowed back into quilting. And it's a more direct way of plowing it back into quilting. But just the fact that you want to promote South African quilters, I think that's such a good idea. And I mean, I hovered a bit because I thought, how is he going to introduce us? But when I got started, there was no stopping me, and I loved every minute of it. It was such fun. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then a friend of mine said to me, why didn't you do I think she called it your doodle quilting. But I immediately knew what she was talking about. It's the graffiti quilting.
I was going to say, there's nothing doodly about your quilts.
No. So yes, I came home and I immediately started, and I think people will also be interested in knowing how I did the the quilt, because I had quite a number of questions. I put a little snippet of it on Instagram, and people were asking me, how on earth did you get the reverse side of this quilt? So what I did was I also
Do you want to tell everybody? Do you want to tell everybody about it? Because I've now overlaid a picture of it now, front and back, so you can see
oh,
it. So
oh
as you
okay.
talk, the images will go across.
Okay, so on the front of it, I created my a front piece of fabric. It's quite thin, and it's all synthetic fabric. And the reason why I did synthetic fabric was because I knew afterwards I was going to singe the edges to get it nice and smooth. I like that smooth finish. And so I created the fabric first. So what I normally say to people who come to me for class or when I do online classes, I try to reuse and recycle things in my studio. So in this case, it was what I call my machine compost, which is threads and things that come off your machine. Yes. So I keep that.
I'm so sorry. Machine compost. That's
Yes.
brilliant. I have a long
Yes.
arm and I've always got all that stuff. I've never heard it called that before. That's brilliant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I always use mine. You know, I use it in different ways, but I always try to not have to go out and buy new stuff, especially when you do something that is in synthetic fabrics. But because one of the rules said that the quilt must have binding around it, you know, and of course the size limit and all that. But because it had to have binding around it, there was no way that I could bind that piece of fabric that I quilted on. So first of all, I created the background fabric with this machine compost, synthetic felt, synthetic, everything was synthetic. Organza overlay. There was some Angelina fibers in it because people know me will know that I love a bit of bling in my work. And so there's always something that catches a little bit of a shimmer and shine. And then once that was done, I did the graffiti quilting, and I used magenta on red. And that is also something that I love doing. I love using unusual colors together. So it's magenta, and the contrast is very much there, but it's quite subtle when you stand far away. But when you come up close, it's a very contrasting, two very contrasting colors, a very nice combination for me. So I did graffiti quilting on that. Once that was finished, I squared it off because it had to be square, so I squared it off. And then I went with a soldering iron, and I just singed around the edges. And that little clip is on my on Instagram. So if people want to see how I did that, they can go and have a look with a metal ruler and a hot soldering iron. And if they want to do that sort of thing, I always warn them, be very careful, because that soldering iron is red hot when you do that. And once that was finished, I set that aside. Then I made a separate little quilt. So, and then I superimposed the graffiti quilt on top of the separate quilt. So the separate quilt that I made is out of 100% cotton. 100% cotton, the one side, the front and the backing, and then the batting, of course, in between. And I made sure that the synthetic quilt, a piece of fabric that I created, fits nicely on it with the right space around it. And it looked as if the graffiti quilting that's on the front went through to the back, but if you look at it carefully, especially if you have the quilt in your hand, you can see it's completely separate works. So it's two works that have been put together. And that's how I got that. And then afterwards I put binding around, and it was ready for you. And I loved it.
It's incredible. Honestly, the artistry and how you've done it, it just shows why you are so good at what you do. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you think will come from this series?
I have great admiration for you in trying to promote South African quilters with showing the world these quilts, these little works. And I think that is exactly what you're going to be doing. It's going to open people, and it might not necessarily be from overseas. It might even be just South Africans. Open their eyes to see what the South African people that live amongst them can create. It's just such a wonderful initiative. And of course, you know, and I would like you to sell all those quilts. I would really like people to go out and buy them and let you collect that money and put it back into the quilting world. I think
Definitely.
that's
And I'm
really
so excited because we're talking with SAQG Hopefully by the time this airs, it's all sorted for them to be able to hold the funds, because personally, I think that they are the perfect people to do it, because they've got the grassroots connections with where help is needed and how best we can do
Yes.
outreach programs and things. And I
Yes.
think we all as an institute, as a group, trust the SAQG to be just they're so transparent with everything they do. They're the perfect people to run it. So fingers crossed we can get it through with
Yes.
them and the project running under their umbrella.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll
Yeah.
see. Do you think there's anything different about South African quilters compared to quilters from around the world?
I think, look, I don't have much experience of overseas quilters. Except if it is work that I see on Instagram and on Facebook and that social media. But as for standing and looking at the quilt and holding it in my hand, or almost holding it in my hand, I don't have any experience with that. I think South African quilters do not have to stand back for any overseas person ever. I think we are a very creative group of quilters, people, and yeah, I think we're doing very well. I think we can compete in any overseas competition and probably stand chances of winning first prizes there. I really think we are, as I said, a very creative bunch of people. Go for it.
What's next for you in your quilting journey?
It's always an interesting question because I can't really predict what is next in my quilting journey as such. As I said to you, I'm busy creating artworks. Some of them are not necessarily quilts, they are framed. So even though it can be quilted, I don't quilt it because I frame them because I go to art exhibitions. So at the moment, in the near future, it's taking part in art exhibitions in South Africa. But what I would really like to do is to be able to go and teach overseas, in the UK, in the USA, as well as in Australia. Those are things that I would really like to do because, as I said to you before, I love teaching. I love creating and I love the teaching part of it almost in the same way. So yes, I suppose, if you ask me what's next in my quilting life, it is to go and teach what I know to other people, spread the word and inspire people all over the world. That's what I would really like to do. But in the meantime, my online classes, I'm working hard on those, and that's also very near future. As soon as all the filming is done, which you should also know, it takes a long time. Filming is done, it goes to the website and it's open to the world to take part and buy the classes, do the lessons, be inspired.
For anybody wanting to try out a free class from Tilly de Harde, please go onto the website here. You can check out and enjoy, and please make sure you follow her on Instagram and let her know what you thought of the class.
And the website, if people would like to do that, what is it?
tillydeharde.com.
Wonderful. And what's next in your fiber art journey? Because obviously your fiber art and your quilting are similar, but not the same.
Yes, in the fiber art, very similar. As I said to you, I create artworks, so they are framed and they are exhibited in galleries. I've got exhibitions, well, not exhibitions, I've got artworks in various galleries in South Africa. And the next one is at the Tina Skooken Art Gallery in Pretoria, where Fiberworks and the other group that I belong to, the Textile Art Group of Gauteng, will exhibit their work, our work. And yes, I just keep on creating. And, what I would also like to do with my fiber art is to enter competitions, international competitions, and see how far I can push the boundaries. Just go for it and see what happens.
Oh, I really hope we can see it, because I think you at QuiltCon, you at Paducah, I think it'll be a really good start because your aesthetic is so different to the traditional American quilting. I think QuiltCon and Paducah would be perfect for you.
I
So
will
fingers
definitely,
crossed.
yes, I will definitely look into it.
Good. Tilly, it was an absolute delight. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and this gorgeous quilt. We are so grateful.
It's an absolute pleasure, and good luck with this venture. I think you're going to be very successful. How many quilts did you get in the
So
end?
we're still trickling in, but at the moment we're at 232.
That is a lot.
That is a lot.
Well, that is fantastic. I wish you luck, because I don't think you're going to have much of a different personal life until
no, there's no life
August
until
done.
August. No life until August.
No.
Tilly,
But John,
you
good
take
luck.
care. You take care, and I look forward to seeing you at festival.
Yes, lovely.
Thank you so much for joining us for this installment. And as you can see, Tilly de Harde, quilting legend. Thank you, darling. Lovely to have you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
My name is Tilly de Harde. I am a fiber artist or textile artist from South Africa, Victory Park in Johannesburg. And I created this little piece specially for John so that he can promote South African quilters. And my piece is called Balance and Creativity. And my favorite colors, very strange colors together, magenta and bright red. And it is a textile piece that is superimposed on a separate quilt, and graffiti quilting is throughout both pieces. My favorite way of quilting. It just comes so naturally to me. So yes, that's all I can say about my little piece. But it was fun, and I was really quite disappointed when it was finished. I would have liked to make another one, but of course you just wanted one from us. That was really fun. Thank you, John.